Okay. So this is my Visual Studio Code. This is what it should look like or something like this when you first open it. So to begin, we're just gonna create some place where you can store your website on your computer so you can like store your code and stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to either if you're working on a Mac or if you're working like on a different type of computer, just folder on your desktop where you can like save your stuff. So I'm just gonna be calling this like Girls ReCode Hacks demo or whatever. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click open folder in Visual Studio Code. And I saved my folder in my desktop. So I'm just gonna go to my desktop and then click on this Girls ReCode Hacks demo and then click add. So if you're not working on a Mac or if you're working on a different type of computer, you can save it really wherever it's accessible. So like if it's in your documents or in some, I don't really know like what place you would save it on if you're working on a different type of computer, but just kind of make this folder accessible. And where so some and save it someplace you're able to like access it. So I'm gonna click the add now. And so now I have this like folder called Girls ReCode Hacks demo that's pulled up in Visual Studio Code. So now that's your folder, and basically that's going to save all of your code, all of your files that you put in to create your website. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my first file. So if you go up here to this like paper plus kind of button here, you're going to click on that, and that basically just creates a new file. And I'm going to call this index.html. And then I'm going to click save or return or whatever. And now that creates a new file, which is basically your HTML file or your main kind of page, your main page for your website. So HTML is like the website that basically kind of creates the structure of your website. It creates, it puts basically all the elements that you want of your website, like on your website. So if like I want some piece of text, I'm going to put that on my HTML page. Or if I want like an image, I'm going to put that in my HTML page. And then there's another language called CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And that adds style to your website. So that kind of makes it look pretty, because HTML sites on its own look pretty like boring and monotonous. And they just look kind of like, yeah, you'll see how it looks. But basically the HTML page first just adds a bunch of elements onto your page, and then the CSS kind of coding makes it pretty basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in HTML into Visual Studio Code, and there should be a couple options that come up. I'm going to click on this HTML and then this :5 button, and that kind of automatically gives me some code on my page. If that doesn't happen for you, it should be fine. You can just kind of just put this HTML and then like you can just put this code on if your computer doesn't automatically give you this code. But basically what this is it's called an HTML boilerplate, and it's basically just kind of a template or a blueprint for how you code your website. So if we look here, this kind of first line, these first two lines kind of declare what type of page it is. It basically declares this is an HTML page, or this file is what's going to create the structure of our website. And then everything from line 3 to like 8 kind of declares the heading, which is like the document information. So like this title line here basically is what the title of the website is. And you can change this, like the word in between this, like, I'm going to call this a start tag and I'm going to call this an end tag. A start tag is basically contains an initial anchor and then a keyword and then an end anchor. And then an end tag contains an initial anchor, a backslash, the keyword, and then the end anchor. And usually whenever you're coding in HTML, you need both a start and end tag. There are exceptions to that, which we'll get into later. But basically the start tag kind of declares what this, like what type of code you're going to be putting in or what you want to be put on your page. And then the end tag kind of is like, okay, I'm done with that element. So this is basically declaring the title of your website. So I'm just going to say Girls ReCode Hacks Demo as my title. And that kind of declares, yeah, the title of the document. So I'm going to click File and then Save or Command S, and that basically saves the code and saves the file. So now you can actually like look at your code in real time and how it looks on a web page. Hold on, I just saw a question in chat, so I'm going to use this. I think, Brianna, I think that's fine. Is everything working now with your code? Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, while you're coding, you can see how it actually kind of looks in real time on a website or like on a web page. So I'm gonna go to my Finder just because this is how like I find all my files. And like I said, you want to make sure that your project like folder is accessible because of this, because I'm just gonna go into the actual folder called Girls ReCode Hacks Demo, and then I'm gonna go into index.html. And basically what that does is it gives me this page. Let me just make this a new. Yeah. So it gives me this page where obviously it's empty because we haven't coded anything on it yet. But it's called, the title is Girls ReCode Hacks Demo, which is what I just renamed it to. Okay, so now that that's done, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to actually start kind of coding and like putting stuff onto the page. So all this work is done in between the body start and end tag. So everything in between here, you can like add, you can click enter a couple times and it gives you enough space for you to like code whatever you want or put elements onto the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some like header on, or this like an initial block of text. And I call that, or not I call it, but it is called an H1. And an H1 is like the largest type of text that you can put onto your screen, like the largest default. Basically, it just stands for like the first heading. And H's like range from H1 to H6, H6 being the smallest like font size, and H7 doesn't exist. So, oh, hold on. Let me just turn off my do not disturb. Okay. So, yeah, H1 is the largest block of text and H6 is the smallest block of text. But then also even smaller than that are paragraph blocks or paragraph text, which is like just paragraph text, like basically. So if I put some words in between, if I put some words in between my H1 start and end tag, I'm just gonna say like, this is the demo website for Girls ReCode Hacks or something like that. And then I save it. And then if I go back to the web page and I reload it, you can see that this text shows up on the screen. And yeah, it's a little ugly looking, but we'll fix that later when we get into CSS. Okay. And then let's say I'll also add a smaller header, like this is a cool website or something like that. I save it and then I reload it. And obviously you can see that this is much bigger than this heading. They're both pretty bolded though, but you can kind of gauge like what types of like headings you want to use based on those sizes. And also like H3s are H3, H2, H4, H5. They're all different types of heading and different types of sizes that you could check out. Okay, but then this paragraph text, I'm just gonna put like random stuff. And if I reload, you can see that it is a little bit bigger than the H6 text. It's just not bolded. It's because it's paragraph text. So that's why, that's how that works. So you can kind of like gauge and see like what types of elements you might want for your website. based on this. Also, it's looking a little weird just being super left-sided. So I'm going to center all of this text. So I'm just going to put this, I'm going to wrap all of this code in between two center tags. So I'm going to say the start anchor and then the keyword center, and then the end anchor. And then I'm going to wrap all of these three pieces of code in between this start tag and this end tag. So that basically means that everything in between this start tag of center and this end tag is going to be centered. So if I reload, that centers everything. So yeah, that's how that works. You can also add an image onto your screen if you want to. The keyword is IMG. So if you type in IMG and then click enter, this code should automatically kind of show up. And so SRC is like what the source is. Like it basically is the keyword in order to identify what your image is in order for it to load. So I'm just going to go on the internet and I'm just going to type up like pictures of dogs, just something random for me to pull up. And I'm going to copy the image address. So if you right click on the image that you want and then click copy image address, that should copy like the address of it. And I'm going to paste it in between these two quotation marks in the image SRC. So now that basically you give your computer or Visual Studio Code what source you want in order for it to load the image. And that's what it does. So now if I reload, a picture of a dog comes up. So yeah, that's how you load an image. And then this alt tag or this alt text keyword in the image tag is just an indicator for if I can't load the image, what do I want to show up in place of the image? So like if for some reason the image can't load properly, I'm just going to say image of dog as like the alternative text. Okay, so that's how you load an image onto the screen. Another thing you can do is you can also add links to other sort of websites or other pages. If you want to create multiple pages for your websites, this is a cool feature to have. So if you just type in the keyword A, that is the link kind of code. And in between the start and end tag, you would put what you want the title of your link to be. So say I want to link it to the girls ReCode Instagram or something like that. I don't know. And then for the actual source code, you need to find the URL of the site that you want to load. So this is the girls ReCode Instagram. So I'm just going to go here and paste that into the href. Href is just another keyword to say what link am I putting here, what source is the link. And so I'm just going to save that and then reload. And then I have a little link here. And if I click on it or if I load it into another tab, it loads the Instagram of the girls. Obviously, you can do this with any website you want. I'm just doing this because that's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. And then also if you kind of see here, like for some reason, like the link is right next to the picture and you don't want that, you want it to be spaced out, you can add a break by just putting the keyword BR, and that kind of makes a break in between the image and the link. So if I reload, oh, is it HR? Okay, so you could put HR or BR, I think. HR is a horizontal rule. So as you can see, when I put HR, it makes a horizontal line here. And yeah, and it separates it. But I think you can also do BR. I'm just not sure why it wasn't working. Okay, yeah, you can do BR too. BR kind of creates a break as well. So this is what my code looks like. You can take a look at it and just absorb that information while I answer some questions in the chat. Okay. So how to open the website? So basically how I opened the website is I went to my Finder, or if you're on a different, if you're on a PC or something, I'm not sure how you pull it up. I think you can click like show in Finder. Like if you right click on the folder, you can see like reveal in Finder or show, like there should be some sort of keyword that allows you to see where it is, like in your settings or in your main file. And then if you actually physically click on the file, like you double click on the index.html file, it should open up the page instead of opening it through Visual Studio Code. So the reason why we got code when we clicked on index.html in Visual Studio Code is because we opened this file within Visual Studio Code. But if you actually go into your folder manually and you try to find index.html, it'll open it in a actual tab. So let me know if you have any other questions with that. But okay. So that's how you do kind of basic, how you put basic elements onto the screen for HTML. You can, again, keep looking at this if you want. But now I'm going to show you guys how you can create multiple pages for your website and how you can style your websites. So I'm going to create another file. So again, you're going to click on this like plus, like, and then this paper kind of button here over in the top left corner. And I'm going to title this like information.html. And this is just another, like, let's say I just want another page for my website. This is my other page, because index.html is always going to be your main page. And then you can add more files like HTML files for additional pages that you want. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add the same sort of like HTML boilerplate or the HTML template. And I'm going to, for the title, I'm going to say like information page or something like that. And then I just put different items here, like different kind of elements, like info about the organization. And then like some description about it. And that's creates another page for your website. But if you notice, if you reload your original thing, like there's no link that shows up to connect you to that additional website. So what you do is what I just did with the link thing here. You go to your index.html, your main page, and then you add an A tag or a link tag, a link element. And inside the href, instead of putting like a link from like the internet, all you need to put is information.html or whatever your file is called, whatever your additional HTML file is called. And I'm just going to title this like link information page or something. And if I reload, you can see that that link shows up right next to this link. So if I click on this, it takes me to what I just coded, which is like this other page. Okay. So now let's go about how to make this look prettier and how to make our page look a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is the first thing that I'm going to do is connect another page for CSS. So you're going to click the same button here to create a new file. And you're going to title this styles.css. And that basically is your main CSS page, your main CSS file. That's how you're going to style all the elements that you put on your index.html page. But before you do anything, you want to link the index.html page to the styles.css page. Because right now, the index.html page doesn't really know anything about the styles.css page because it's not like connected to it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put I like to put it in between the end of the head and the beginning of the body for my HTML page. and you're going to type in the keyword link. Oh yeah, somebody's asking to go back to the information.html page, so I'm just going to do that real quick. But yeah, here's the information.html page if you want to look at it real quick. It's just basic information. This is just for demo purposes, so I'm like barely putting like any elements onto the screen, but you can kind of envision how you want your hackathon project. If you're thinking of making a website, you don't have to, but how you want to make your hackathon project into a website by learning this stuff. So I'll just give that a minute. But if you need me to go back on anything, please let me know, because I will. Because I realize I might be going too fast, but yeah. Okay, so how do I get the information page link? So what I did is so the information.html page is in the same folder as the main folder that I'm working in. So in order for it to link, I went back to my index.html main page, and I made a new link element right underneath my, like the old one, the Instagram one. So I basically did the same thing. I typed the keyword A, and then I clicked enter, and that automatically kind of gave me that code. And then in between the two quotation marks for the href is basically like source code, or not source code, but like what am I going to be actually linking to? I put in information.html, and that was and that created that new link that would link into the information.html page. And then in between this, because this entire thing is the start tag and this thing is the end tag, in between the start and end tag, I put the actual text that would show up on the website for the users to see, or like for the users to link into. So I said information page, and that linked that into the information tab. Okay. So that's how you do that. Now for the styles. So, okay, again, right after I like to put it in between the end of the head and the beginning of the body is where I like to put any sort of like links. Like if I'm linking to external things, like especially when you're working in more advanced things, like if you're trying to link in APIs, or if you're trying to link in like fonts from different websites or things like that, I just like to have this space in between the head and the body as where I put all of like my imports or exports or things like that. Not exports, but imports and stuff. So here I just typed in the keyword link, and then I clicked enter. And in between the href, that's where you're going to put the keyword styles.css. And then you're going to click save. And basically what that does is it tells the index.html page, hey, I have a stylist, and I want to link to the styles.css page. So now any sort of code I wrote right in here will now be recognized by the styles.css page, or vice versa. So yeah. So, okay. So now I'm going to go into my styles.css page. And let's say that the first thing that I kind of want to edit is the fonts, because I don't really like the fonts. So what I like to use is I like to use Google Fonts. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. But Google Fonts has a lot of different fonts that you can use for your websites. And you can kind of go through which ones you like and click on it. And what you can do is you just go down to the different types of styles that each font has. And you can create, like, select a certain type of style. So I'm going to say select regular 400. And then automatically when I click that, you can see that on the side, it gives me this like pop-up, which basically gives me the code for me to import these fonts into my code. And then it gives me the CSS code. And I'll explain how to implement this in a second. But right now you're just browsing, you're shopping to look for, not shopping, but you're like looking at what fonts you like. So you can add more fonts. So I'm just going to go through and see what fonts I like. I don't know, this is kind of cool. I'm just going to go through this. Yeah. I just select a couple fonts, like 2 to 3, maybe select a font that's like could be a standout font, a font for paragraph text, and then like another type of font. So what do you need to click to go to our website? So basically you need to be able to find where your folder is. So for Macs, there's something called Finder, which is how you can find like different documents or folders and things like that that you have on your computer. And what I did is I went to folder or Finder, and I went into my folder, and then I clicked on the index.html page. Like I clicked on the file in the folder. So I double clicked on it and it just pulls me up to this page. I'm pretty sure there is another method, but I have to figure that out because this is the method I usually use. Let me see. I think if you just click like reveal in Finder, or if you're on a PC or something, it should say like reveal in whatever the settings are, or documents or something. It should pull up the actual file. So then when you double click on it, it'll open the file for you. Okay. So now I've selected my fonts and I'm going to import them into my code. So over here on the right, I see this big like text block, which has a bunch of like links in it. And I'm going to click on this like copy button here. Or if you just want to highlight all that code and copy it, you can do that. And then if you go back to your code, your Visual Studio Code, and you paste that right underneath the link for the style sheets, that imports all of your fonts. Now for you to actually use the fonts, I'm going to go to my styles.css page. And I'm going to type in, what do I want to change? So this is how styles.css works, or this is how CSS works. You basically need to declare what you want to change and then write like what feature you want to change and what you want to change it to. So the first thing that I'm going to try to target is maybe the heading, like the main block of text, which if you look back at the index.html page is an H1. So I'm going to go into my styles.css and I'm going to say H1 because that's what I want to change. And then I'm going to open up two curly braces, a starting curly brace and an ending curly brace. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here because everything in between here basically is what features you want to change and what you want to change it to. So what do I want to change about the H1? I want to change the font, right? So I'm going to go back to Google Fonts. And then if we scroll down over here to the second block of like text here on the right, it gives me the code for how to change the fonts. So I'm going to just copy this last line because I remember that was like a standout type of font. So I'm going to highlight, copy. I'm going to go back to the styles.css page and I'm going to paste. And now if I save that and if I go back to my website and I reload, the font should change. Yeah, the copy paste font, I can repeat that. So you're going to go up here to the side of your Google Fonts. And this first like big block of code here, that's how you're going to import the fonts. So I'm going to highlight all of that code here, and I'm going to copy it. So if you can right click, click copy, or Command C. And now I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to go to my index.html page. And right underneath where I had created the style sheet reference for the styles.css, I'm going to paste that, the code that I just copied. So you should have this kind of pasted. You don't see it. So I think, let me see. Click on this button here called View Selected Families. That should give you the side. Yeah, no worries. Okay. So that's how you change your fonts. And then you can do the same with all the other pieces of code that text that we have. So I'm going to change my, let's say I want to change my H6 now. I'm going to go into styles.css. I'm going to, after the end curly brace of the last element that we changed, I'm going to click H6 and then open it up and then paste that line of code in there. And we're going to save that. So now if I reload, it changes these two fonts. And you can do that for all the text that you have on your screen. Now I'm going to show you, let's say that you have two H1s. Let's say I have two headings. This is a demo website. And then instead of for girls ReCode hacks in that one, I put, for girls ReCode hacks on a different line, a different header. And let's say I want the first heading to have a different font than the second heading, or I want the first heading to have a different color than the second heading. How can I differentiate the first H1 to the second H1? So how you do that is you basically have to implement something called a class, which is a name tag functionally. It basically labels your any of your elements so that you're able to reference to it without referencing to it as an H1. So right here, right after the keyword, but right before the ending anchor, I'm going to put the keyword class. And then I'm going to put equals, and then I'm going to put 2 quotation marks. So it should look something like this. And then in between the quotation marks, I'm going to put what word I want to reference it to, as my name tag. So I'm going to put main or something. It really could be anything you want, just something that you're going to be able to remember so you can reference to it later. So I name tagged this as main. So now if I want to change this, the settings for this, I have a name tag. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second H1, but for this one, I'm going to put the name tag as second or something. It could be whatever you want, but that's how you name tag your elements. So now I'm going to go to my styles.css page, and I'm going to give myself a little bit more space. And now instead of just saying main, I need to put a dot right before I say main as my title, because this is a name that I created. It's not a default name. So anytime you kind of create a name that you create, you have to put a dot before it, but that's just pretty easy to remember. So now let's say I want to change the font size to 30 pixels or something. Let's do 50 pixels. And then for the second thing, I'm going to put dot second, and this is going to have a different font size of 30 pixels or something. So now what I just did is I just changed the font size for the first H1 and the font size of the second H1. So now if I go back and I reload the screen, you should see that they both have the same font because they're both H1, so they both fall under this setting, but they have different font sizes because they have different labels or different name tags. So that's how you do that. And you can do that for any element on the screen. Like, let's say you have multiple images and you want one image to be a different size than another, then you can just add the class keyword and label your image like dog or whatever your image is, so you can differentiate between the images that you have. Now, the last thing that I'm going to show is how you can change the color of your fonts. So I like using this website called colorhunt.co just because it has really like pretty color palettes that you can use. So I'm just going to send that in the chat. And it has like nice color palettes. So you can use like, if you want to have like a pretty organized color palette for your website, you can just find one of these palettes that you like and use those colors. So I'm gonna use like this one. And what I do is basically it gives you like the hex code, which is like the like label of the colors that you can use. So let's say for the titles, I want to use this like darker purple pinkish color. I'm just gonna hover over this this code, the hex code, and I'm gonna click on it and it should automatically copy it to your clipboard. And now I'm gonna go back to my code. I'm gonna go to styles.css, and then under like font size, I'm just gonna put like font or like color, and then I'm gonna put the hashtag and then the code. Also, if for some reason your code isn't working, make sure that you put a semicolon after each line of code. That is a very silly mistake that people usually make. And they're like super confused about why their code isn't working or why the style isn't loading properly. It might be just because you forgot a semicolon after each of your lines. Anyways, yeah, so I just changed the color. So I'm going to click save now and reload this. And as you can see, the color of the first heading has changed. And you can do that with any of them too. So let's say I want this one to be this yellow, which it probably won't look good, but whatever. I just put the hashtag and then I copy or paste the code, the hex code, and then I save it, reload, and then it changes color. Now let's say you want to change the background of your entire like website. What you're going to do is you're going to be functionally changing the entire body of your website. So I'm going to go to styles.css and I'm going to say body as the thing I want to change. Open the curly braces. And then what I'm changing is the background. It depends either if you're changing your background to a specific color or if you're changing your background to an image that you found online. But for now, let's say I just want to change the background color to like this yellow, the same yellow, even though this one's going to blend in. It's fine. I'm going to change the background color to this color. And then let me reload page. And as you can see, it changes the entire website background to that color. So now that means that I have to change this color because now it's not visible. But yeah, that's how that works. Does anybody have any questions with what I just showed you guys? With everything I showed you to this point? If you want me to go back and show you something else, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that. If you have any questions with specific features, or if you want me to show you something again, just let me know. But I'll just let you look at my code for a little bit. Okay. So now the last thing that I'm going to show you is how you can style or how you can add like an icon, because as you can see, when I look at my page, the icon is just this like this world icon, and that's not really exciting. So how you change your icon is you're basically, it's something called a fab icon or a fave icon. So again, like underneath this, like the beginning, the end of head and the beginning of body, I'm actually, never mind, hold on. Let me find the code that I used for that. Okay. So what you're going to be using for making an icon is, it's going to be a link, except it's going to be, the href is going to be your, what icon you want. I think that should work. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, that should work. Okay, so the href is going to be called like favicon dot something, like dot png or whatever. And what you want to do is you want to save an image to your folder, name it favicon dot png, and it should be the icon. Let me test it out to make sure it works. Okay, so let's say that I put an image. Hold on. Okay. So I just put this image into my folder, and I'm just gonna rename this like fave icon.png. And now I think it should work. Let me see if it does. No. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, so now that works. And it changed this icon to the image that I had put in. So basically what I did is I put in an image into my folder. So what I did, I'll show you. So I put this image called faveicon.png into this folder of grc hacks demo, like the folder with all my code in it. And then I had made another link, and I had the REL is, instead, it's not a style sheet, it's a shortcut icon, basically indicating it's an icon for your website. And then the source or the image that you're going to put in is the faveicon.png. I think you can rename this too, but that's what I did. And that's how you change this like icon of your website. Anyways, yeah, that's how you do all of that. Does anybody have any questions up till that, up to what I just showed you guys? No? Okay. So, you can do what, like you can do the style editing kind of techniques and things that I showed you with any of the elements on your screen. Like if you want to change the font size of any of your like paragraph, any of your text elements, you can do that. Or if you want to change the height and width of your image, you can do that as well. Oh, how do we change the size of the image? Okay, so I can show you guys how to do that, and then I'll answer you with your after I do this. So you can change the size of your image by going into styles.css. And what you do is you do your IMG, your image, that's your keyword. Or if you used a name tag or a class for this, then just for your keyword, put that label in. So for mine, I think I had put my class as dog. So I'm just going to do .dog. And I'm just going to change the height. So I think you could do like 50 pixels, and then the width. Also, I think you can do like 50 pixels. And that should change your image size. So you can just edit this to how you like it. So I'll change it to 100. It makes it not look great. So let me do like maybe 100 by 100. Maybe that's a little too small. So I'm going to do like 500 by 500. So yeah, you can just kind of play around with what height and width works for you, but height and width are the features that you're going to be using to change that. And then can you make spaces between the two links to the website? Yeah, you can definitely do that. If you go back to the index.html page, and in between the two links, you can put BR, like the start anchor, BR, the end anchor. It creates a line break between your first link and your next link. And if you're noticing that you want a little bit more space between this, you can just do multiple breaks. And that's how you do that. Okay. So I think I'm going to show you guys something called padding now, padding and margin. So let's say you want a lot of space between your elements. What you can do is you can use this styles.css feature called padding, which basically, or padding or margin or whatever, which basically creates space between your elements. So let's say I wanted to create space between my H1, my H6. I wanted to give it more padding. This is my H6, by the way. I'm going to go into styles.css and I'm going to say padding, and I'm going to say maybe like 50 pixels or something. And if I click enter, as you can see, there's a lot more space both up and down, like around the H6. Let's say I want to do that with the paragraph as well. I just put P, padding, 100 pixels or something. And as you can see, it creates a lot of space in between it. So padding is basically just creating extra like space or making the space bigger around the element. So both above and below, there's 100 pixels of space. So you can just do that. That's an easy way to kind of create space for your website. Yeah, another thing is, let's say you want to group your elements together and you want to change, like, let's say I want the first half of my website to be some color and the second half of my website to be another color. What you can do is you can create containers, which are called divs in HTML. And basically what that does is it groups or it wraps several elements together into one container. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my index.html code. And let's say I want to group or wrap my H1 features to my paragraph features. So I'm just going to type in div. And I'm going to take this end tag and I'm going to put it after the paragraph element. And I just indented everything so I can just visually see like what's in my container. So that basically declared that everything in between this start div and this end div tag is going to be in one container. And now I'm going to give this a class because I'm going to give it a name tag. I want to name my container like, intro or something. Like this is like the beginning of my website. And let's say I want the background of the entire beginning part of my website to be a different color. So I'm going to go into my styles.css page, and then I'm going to go to .intro and then background color. I'm going to change the background color to, let's go to color. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know. This is going to look really bad, but it's fun. To this like white color. White-ish, kind of beige-ish color. I click enter, and as you can see, it changes the background of the of everything wrapped inside the container. It looks really bad right now, but the point of it was to just show you how you can edit that. And then if you don't want this like extra space up here, you can probably just take out this body kind of setting and reload. And yeah, if you want the color to extend from the beginning of your website, I think you can just add some padding top. And as you can see, it covers a lot more space. You can also do padding like maybe 90 pixels or something. And yeah. So that's how you do that. And that's how you can just kind of keep playing around with this, play around with the different colors you can use, the different font sizes, the different fonts you can use, how you want to separate your website, things like that. And so, yeah, that's like a beginning kind of basic intro to HTML and CSS. I'm going to also share this like document with a bunch of links to other resources that you can ends to kind of learn more about how you can be more advanced with your websites. So it links into resources with JavaScript, different sort of HTML and CSS tutorials, things like that to make your website look more like complex or functional and pretty and stuff. So yeah, does anybody have any questions with everything I just covered? No? Okay. So if nobody has any questions, that kind of is the end of